Alana, Vylana, Aubrey, I'm crazy proud of you because all three of you have...
Does he give you cult leader vibes as well? I'm so proud of you. You know, you're doing so good.
And we want to do it not just for ourselves. We want to do it for the sake of the evolution of love.
This guy. This guy.
Proselytize, but to model wider
We don't
possibilities.
want to have sex with multiple partners for ourselves. We want it for the evolution of love, for humanity, for reality itself. It's not just about me being a horny toad, you know? No. It is, I want to evolve love. You know, I want to better the universe. I hope no one is shaming Aubrey Marcus for wanting to have multiple partners and to go out there and explore. What I, and I believe many people have an issue with, is the fact that he is first and foremost trying to rebrand monogamy and like to merge the two or whatever. Like, just call it what it is. You want polyamory. Just be upfront about that. That's what you want. Don't call it radical monogamy. Monogamy is between two people. That's it. The moment there is a third person, it's not monogamy anymore. It's not radical monogamy. It's monogamy, two people, polyamory, three people. Or, however, many. No shaming Aubrey Marcus for wanting to live that life. But the thing is that he had a container with Vylana and he's breaching that. And they were married, so I assume there were marriage vows, and he's breaking those too.
I had a thriving wild stallion of Eros that desired.
So Aubrey is very poetic, right? He's good with language. A wild stallion of Eros is a very poetic way of saying that he's a horny guy. It's almost like he wants to qualitatively distinguish himself from the rest of the male population. Every man is a horny toad, right? He can call it Eros stallion, he can call it whatever it is. At the end of the day, he's exactly like everyone else. He's not special, but he uses again language to make it sound more special and refined and evolved than it really is.
It's been a wild journey, and I've died. I mean, I've died so many times I can't even count. It's just hundreds and hundreds, but ultimately,
if you need to undergo hundreds of ego deaths to live a lifestyle, then probably that lifestyle is not for you. She's the one who has to do all the ego death and all the change and the evolution, right? She has to do all the work. She has to undergo all these trials and all this pain. And, you know, I don't even want to call it growth, because I don't really know if it's growth evolution or if it's devolution. Or, I mean, I just feel like it's a woman stepping outside of her element and outside her queen throne energy of wanting to be the one. But now she has to be one amongst many. Meanwhile, Marcus is in his element, right? He can do what he wants. He can look at who he wants. He can have sex with who he wants. He's in his element. He doesn't have to do anything. It's her that has to do all the changing. To me, it doesn't sound healthy.
But not in the classical monogamous sense. It's an expanded monogamy.
So it's not monogamy.
But there's a radical monogamy, but it's just not a...
No, so it's not monogamy. It either is monogamy, two people, or it's not. It's not expanded how? You expand it so there are other people in there, but now it's broken. Then it's not monogamy. Dr. Marc Gafni.
It's a slightly bigger monogamy, but it's not, okay, we're not like moving in and out of partners. No, it's not the polyamory road. It's not the classical monogamy mode. It's a radical monogamy.
So not monogamy.
Of deep exclusivity between Aubrey and Vi. And then there's going to be a new...
So it's not exclusive.
Goddess who will step into the field, who will also step into this field of radical monogamy.
Okay, let's look up the definition here of monogamy. The state of practice of having one sexual partner at a time. So the moment you have two sexual partners at a time, it's no longer monogamy.
To ignore God at that point to finish your workout would be absurd. Click one time, and there's Alana. And I'm like, and I just get this kind of like chills. And I'm like, fuck.
You showed me immediately too.
I was like, fuck. Like I think this is it. I think this is what Spirit was telling me about. So I sent her this message on the app. And the message is something like,
So he's like doing this, and he's like, and then God is like, Aubrey, my Eros stallion, I got something for you. I got something for you. And then he hops into his dating app. Expanded monogamy, you have to understand. A new pattern is emerging. People are finally able to discern and look past the bullshit of so-called spiritual teachers. This is certainly the case when we look at the massive backlash to Aubrey Marcus' recent podcast that he did together with his wife Vylana, their new girlfriend Alana, and their mentor Marc Gafni, that weirdo sitting on the side being like, that's great, guys, that's great.
What Ob says and what you're stepping into is so crazy beautiful. I'm crazy proud of you. Yeah, just so beautiful.
Now, I haven't watched the podcast yet, but in this video, I will. In fact, me and my buddy and fellow occult observer, Hatar, are going to watch it and react to it live. So you're going to get our unscripted, spontaneous reactions to the podcast. Despite not having watched the podcast, I am very familiar with Aubrey Marcus and have been familiar with him for 1.5 decades. In fact, I've been using some of his products. I used his nootropic Alpha Brain that he made together with Joe Rogan, and which didn't work at all. Then I've used his pocket pussies, which certainly did work. Now, I've never been like, this guy is this evolved spiritual guru. I just kind of saw him as, a spiritual seeker, someone who is curious, someone who is also very eloquent and has a poetic flair for communicating his plant-based experiences and other experiences. But at the end of the day, he's just a human being. He's just a guy. And I think what is happening here is that people are realizing that he's not that evolved, that he might call himself an Eros stallion, but in reality, he's just a horny toe like the rest of the male population. A guy who has a hard time keeping his dick in his pants and is using spiritual jargon to justify the fact that he would like to have sex with other women. Is it out of love? Is it out of lust? I don't know, but maybe this podcast will help elucidate that fact for me. So basically just gonna watch the podcast and make some commentary. Now, before we begin the podcast, I think it's only appropriate that I mention the elephant in the room, or rather the Harley Quinn in the room. Because today, when I was putting on my outfit, I was looking through some t-shirts and whatnot, and I found this t-shirt, and I haven't been wearing it for years, but I thought that today would be quite appropriate. Because if you're not aware, Harley Quinn was a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum, where she had Joker as a patient.
I'm Joan Leland.
Hi, Joan. Call me Harley. Everyone does. You can't deny there's an element of glamour to these super criminals.
I'll warn you right now. These are hardcore psychotics. If you're thinking about cashing in on them by writing a tell-all book, think again.
But as their, patient-psychiatrist relationship evolved, he managed to lure her in and to manipulate her and to mind warp her into becoming his girlfriend and partner in crime.
I studied all his tricks and gimmicks and felt I was ready for anything.
You know, my father used to beat me up pretty badly.
Anything except that.
And I cannot help but at least draw a vague comparison between the Joker Harley Quinn situation and the Aubrey Marcus Vylana situation. Because we have a situation here where we have a strong, powerful woman, a capable woman, a competent woman, really being hoodwinked by her eloquent male counterpart into going along with something that is not psychologically healthy for her. It's essentially a form of devil's deal where both women, right, the fictional characters of Harley Quinn and the real woman of Vylana, have to let go of who they really are to essentially make their abuser happy. Now, most people wouldn't call Aubrey Marcus an abusive partner, right? He's very gentle, he's very sweet and smooth. He's very encouraging, at least when it comes to doing things that he would like her to do. But when you stop and really consider what is going on here, you see that you have a woman who is going along with something that she doesn't want, something that makes her deeply unhappy. Because Vylana, she's a proud woman, she's a woman that wants to be the goddess in the relationship. She wants to be Shakti, and she wants Aubrey to be her Shiva. And she wants them to have this closed spiritual circuit of deep intimacy and safety where love can grow and bloom. But then, because he's a guy and he hasn't alchemized his sexual instinct, his Eros stallion tendencies, then she has to actually remove herself from her feminine power, her queen energy, to play ball with this little jester, this little knight, because he's certainly not a king, right? He doesn't want to have a kingdom and to have his queen. He wants to be a knight's errand, right? To travel around, and this is not going to be the end. This is not going to be the end with Alana. This is going to continue. He's basically trying to get her to do something that she doesn't want to do, right? And of course, she doesn't have to do it, but can't he see how unhappy she is? I mean, we can. Everybody seems to be able to see that this is a deeply, deeply unhappy woman. Why doesn't he sit her down and is like, listen, I love you, but I cannot give you what you want. You want monogamy? I want radical monogamy, right? He wants something else, she wants something else. It's not going to work. But the fact that he's not like, listen, Alana, it's not going to work. I want the best for you because I love you, and I'm not the best for you. There's someone else out there that's the best for you, someone who will revere you as his goddess and won't be looking longingly at other women. If you truly loved her, that's exactly what he would do. But he gets her to tag along with something that makes her deeply unhappy. And because of that, I consider what he's doing not just emotional abuse, not just psychological abuse, but spiritual abuse. Because he is essentially coaxing her to step away from her divinely feminine center of being a queen. Being a queen who wants a king, who wants a kingdom and a queendom that they share and that is their beautiful Shiva Shakti space, right? I mean, the fact that she has to undergo, 1,000 ego deaths to go along with this probably tell you that this is not the thing for her. And yet he doesn't have that conversation with her. He doesn't see her hurt, or at least he doesn't care. He only cares about himself, seemingly. So, with that said, Hatar, you ready to hop into the podcast?
Yeah, man.
Let's go.
Well, buckle your seatbelts, everyone, because this is going to be a podcast that is going to be shocking for some of y'all. It's going to be stimulating for many of y'all. It's going to raise a lot of questions. And the reason is that I am here with my beloved wife, Vylana, which many of you who follow me on social media or have listened to our podcast have met and love. And we're also
So yes, Aubrey, we know about you and Vylana very well because you've been advertising you and her as having this divine union. So you have really been, selling retreats and really created this brand around divine union and monogamous union. So yes, we know about you very well.
here with beloved Alana, who is a part of our relationship.
It's kind of funny, right? Vylana, Alana, and they also look very similar, and apparently both of them come from Hawaii.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has a type.
And we're also here with my beloved and esteemed teacher, Rebbe, Dr. Marc Gafni, who's helped us navigate.
So this Marc Gafni guy is interesting. I pulled him up, and apparently he has livid against him. Just taking one article that I found from the Times of Israel, It says here, controversial ex-rabbi Gafni and an alleged victim square off. So this woman, Gafni, of her and another girl when she was, I believe, 16. And he's an ex-rabbi, but actually his teacher denounced him. It doesn't say exactly why he was denounced, but he was denounced. It says here that now, 45 years old, Mitzna is the sole, or was the sole, public face of the against Gafni. She said this week she was the elder of two teenage girls, aged 13 and 16, whom Gafni allegedly met while he was working in New York City. It was in 1986, and she had moved in with Gafni and his then wife to escape a troubled situation. And basically it says here that Gafni climbed naked into a bed, and she told her parents, and nothing really came of it, and she was very terrified of him. She says here, he's a sociopath. There's this fear of him. He was stalking me and making prank phone calls to my house for a couple of years afterwards. She goes on to say that she firmly believes that he is. I was terrified from that point after the and had to talk about it. And yeah, I mean, he is allegedly who is, yeah, preaching and practicing polyamory. And he even was an Orthodox rabbi at some point, but this rabbi that he was basically under repudiated him, rejected him. It doesn't say why. Now Gafni is basically saying that this is not true, that she's lying, but she's, been on him for years because of this. Then in 1988, Gafni moved to Israel, where he created something called Beit Kadash, or New Home. And this was a place that focused on mysticism and creative worship. And this center was closed down in 2006 because several women in the community complained about it. So this is the guy that is Aubrey Marcus's mentor. Interesting. Let us continue. One more thing. So this is the mentor of Aubrey Marcus, a man who likes to call himself king, right? He's a king. Now, the way you really determine the wisdom of a king is to look at who does he have in his inner circle, who are his advisors and counselors. Allegedly, if you are to believe all these from women against Gafni, one of his counselors in his inner court is a. Let us continue.
What this all means, how we're going to not only live in this moment to moment, but to create something that is pointing towards one possibility in the future of relationships.
But the thing is that Aubrey was married to this woman, right? And I assume that there were marriage vows that he cannot keep. And so I see where he's going with this. And something I want to say up front, we're not shaming Aubrey Marcus, and I hope no one is shaming Aubrey Marcus for wanting to have multiple partners and to go out there and explore. What and I believe many people have an issue with is the fact that he is first and foremost trying to rebrand monogamy and like to merge the two or whatever. Like, just call it what it is. You want polyamory. Just be upfront about that. That's what you want. Don't call it radical monogamy. Monogamy is between two people, right? That's it. The moment there is a third person, it's not monogamy anymore. It's not radical monogamy. It's monogamy, two people, polyamory, three people, or however many. So no shaming Aubrey Marcus for wanting to live that life. But the thing is that he had a container with Vylana, and he's breaching that. And they were married, so I assume there were marriage vows, and he's breaking those too. But anyway, let's continue.
We didn't plan to be here. This was not like we set out with this intention. we arrived at this intention through a variety of choices and mystical interventions and just the acceptance of what is.
So I haven't watched the podcast, but I have heard about it. And when he says mystical interventions, basically what he experienced in a goddess temple that I believe it was the temple of Thor, where I've been, was that he was in a chamber, and I assume he was on plant medicine of some kind, drugs, and then he heard the voice of the goddess herself saying that he should have children with both women. So I'm sure that was a real experience. I'm sure there was a voice telling him that. The question is, what was that voice? Was it the goddess herself? Was it a demon? Was it his own ego?
Probably the last thing, man.
Yeah, unconscious desires, you know? And where you can, and that's where where it comes in, right? The dishonesty. Maybe he's not deliberately dishonest and deliberately deceitful, but he is being deceitful, I believe, by saying this, right? To kind of like justify it. Oh, I received this holy guidance from the goddess herself, and yeah, I mean, she told me to have children with both of you. I see that as being deceptive, because that is, I mean, that is very much a persuasion tactic right there. Maybe subconsciously, but it is a persuasion tactic, and a very convincing one if you're in that space. And these women, especially Vylana, really want to honor the goddess and channel the goddess and be a priestess in her own right. So that is kind of like bringing a parent into the situation, right? With a high level wisdom to tell these puny little humans what to do with their lives.
And what is has really guided us to where we are now. And where we are now is a story that we have not yet told.
Yeah, you certainly haven't told this story before. In fact, you have been advertising you and Vylana as being exclusive. You know, you've had all these retreats. People have looked up to you as human beings who have attained a union that by all intents and purposes, or at least from our external perspective, was exclusive. Once again, deceptive marketing of your relationship. So no, we certainly haven't heard this side of the story before. But that said, props to Aubrey for actually just sharing this, because now we can talk about it.
Really, as you would say,
yeah,
Rebbe, drenched in shame.
I mean, maybe that's, you know, I mean, there's going to be so much to hear from you, Aubrey, and from Vylana and from Alana. So maybe we'll just kind of just set the frame, and then.
Why does this guy look like every single in existence? Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Yeah, he looks like a PDF file, man.
He looks like a creep.
You know, away we go. So first, I think what Aubrey said was so important, which is we're not here to suggest that there's this new optimal form of relationship which we are proselytizing for. You know, Joseph Smith starting Mormonism. Nothing of the kind. You know, so one. Two, for most people.
By the way, why is he even there? Like, they're talking about their relationship, right? It's Aubrey and the two girls. Is he like afraid of these lionesses ganging up on him or just being able to speak freely? Is it to kind of like balance it out? Is it to control the narrative? Is it to move the conversation where they want to move it?
Or maybe just have someone with an outside perspective.
Or someone with an outside perspective, an alleged...
Who is not involved in the relationship.
An alleged... But he's also very much into this stuff, right? He's very much into polyamory. So he's not exactly an objective observer.
Most of the time, classical monogamy, and I say classical monogamy, is probably the best road, and not a simple one. Because actually, in this kind of classical monogamy vision, everyone envisions classical monogamy as this, you know, perfect man and woman, first off, right? Heteronormative, if we can use that word. There's always a man and a woman. There's 4 perfect kids, incredible grandchildren. There's a philanthropic organization that they're all working in to make the world better. They have insanely beautiful Christmas parties and Thanksgiving. They all love each other.
Or at least pictures that look insanely
right?
beautiful that
unimaginably
they send you.
Of just like this bliss and harmony, and you can just see the picture of all of them, and everything else is somehow reaching for that. Now, Donny Osmond might have made that happen in Salt Lake.
I think that sounds very beautiful. Yeah. A man and a woman, children, grandchildren, a beautiful family, philanthropy. Sounds pretty good to me.
City or may not have, that's a question, but that's not actually how it works. Classical monogamy, which again I think is probably the best path for most people most of the time, is filled with...
I would say that it maybe isn't the best for most people, because I think most people, they can't really deal with it. They're not, especially most men, haven't really alchemized, are not able to alchemize a sexual desire, right? There is a wandering gaze. There is a lack of ability to contain the sexual force of really being that Shiva who can be a container for Shakti, right? Most guys, the moment they feel that the Kundalini stirring within them, they need to get rid of it. And that's why they pursue porn, not because they want to online cheat on their partners, but because they can't contain that sexual energy and dedicate it fully to their Shakti in the form of their woman. So I would actually disagree with him that monogamy, classical monogamy, is not the best for most people, because I would say that classical monogamy requires a very mature person, a very mature man, a very mature woman, and very evolved man and woman. I would say maturity and evolution is basically the same, right? A mature plant, a mature person, an evolved plant, an evolved person. So it's not the right thing for most people, probably. And that is, and we see that in the stats, right? We see that in how many people are cheating, you know, how much infidelity there is, how many marriages fail. And even those that don't fail by any obvious metric, they are probably not the happiest relationship, you know? So there are many reasons for that. And one reason, one major reason I would say, is exactly because men particularly are not adequately evolved to practice monogamy, to have one woman, right? To do that is to be Shiva. And that's what we call a Shaktiman in Tantra, is a man who can dance and, you know, love make with Shakti on all levels.
One more kind of critical frame, which is crazy important. Reality is, as we've talked about so much, reality is evolution. That's just true. Evolution means it's a story. It's an evolving story, and it's a love story. Right? Reality is not merely a fact, it's a story, and it's a love story.
That is very true. You could even say that reality is the lovemaking process of Shakti and Shiva, of consciousness and energy, which ideally expressed would be within the monogamous container. So we can have that pure dance happen between two people in a closed spiritual circuit.
Two is reality is relationships. That's just true. Atoms are relationships. Molecules are relationships between parts.
Quantum entanglement, yeah.
Reality is relationships. And reality is the evolution of relationships. Reality is, at its core structure, the evolution of relationships. And what moves reality forward...
I know where he's going with this. It's like reality is relationship. Agree? Is the evolution of relationship, what do you mean by that? Right? Is this because reality is reality, and are they literally trying, just based on the title, a new pattern of sacred relationship emerge? I mean, are you trying to rewrite reality? Because you say reality is relationship, reality is the evolution of relationship. You want to evolve relationship into radical monogamy, which is polyamory. So you want to rewrite reality itself. It's basically what he's saying, you know? Okay, it just strikes me as hubristic and dishonest, because are they really rewriting anything? Isn't it just polyamory, literally? Like, he needs, and Aubrey needs, and the girls need to really bring up something profound to convince me that they're here to provide a rewriting of the fabric of reality itself, reality being relationships. That's a tall order. That's a tall order.
Forward. So when we run into a crisis of relationship, okay, so monogamy, right? Classically, it's not exactly working. So what do? So we move to serial monogamy. Oh, it's the right structure, but didn't work with that person. The problem was the person. Let me try it another time. Didn't work. Let me try it again. Oh, let me try it again. So we move from monogamy to serial monogamy.
And that's basically Marc Gafni's experience, because he has multiple ex-wives. So he's talking about himself here. He was not able to be in a monogamous relationship. So he's talking about himself here, right? He was in a relationship, and then judging by the fact that he is into polyamory and all the against him, and the fact that many women have come out against him, it sounds like he can't really keep his dick in his pants. So because he can't keep his dick in his pants, and because he, I would say, hasn't evolved to a point where he's a real Shakti man, a man who can devote himself fully to a woman, now he needs to update reality to fit his inadequacies. Hubristic is clear as day.
I just want to honor all three of you. You know, Alana, Vylana, Aubrey, I'm crazy proud of you. Because all three of you have...
Does he give you cult leader vibes as well? I'm so proud of you. You know, you're doing so good.
We want to live in a full, profound authenticity and grace. And we want to do it not just for ourselves. We want to do it for the sake of the evolution of love.
This guy. This guy.
Proselytize, but to model wider
We don't want to have sex with multiple partners for ourselves. We want it for the evolution of love, for humanity, for reality itself. It's not just about me being a horny toad, you know? No. It is, I want to evolve love. You know, I want to better the universe.
And all three of you have been through 1,000 hours of journey, and holy and broken hallelujahs have been madly committed to living with integrity and with kind of a radical authenticity and open, radical open heart.
I feel like he is imposing a pattern, rather, that needn't be there. Instead of just letting them talk, but like Alana talk, Aubrey talk, and let a pattern emerge, he's kind of like, so, this is the history of monogamy, and this is why it doesn't work for most people, and we are trying to evolve it into something else, and reality is the evolution of relationships, and that's what we're doing here. He's basically trying to kind of like create a structure for the conversation to move in, and to actually control the narrative. That's what he's doing here. If he was all about authenticity, as he says, then he would not need to impose a narrative on the conversation. A narrative and a structure would evolve organically, but he doesn't let that happen. He imposes it from the beginning.
Crazy proud of you, and away we go.
Away we go.
Away we go.
The story really begins with me recognizing fundamentally that I was unwilling to actually be in deception. And that I had a thriving wild stallion of Eros that desired.
So Aubrey is very poetic, right? He's good with language. A wild stallion of Eros is a very poetic way of saying that he's a horny guy, he's a horny toad, that he's a man, he's a dog, right? Very poetic way of phrasing that. Very just basic, animalistic desire. It's almost like he wants to qualitatively distinguish himself from the rest of the male population, right? Every man is a horny toad, right? He can call it a stallion, Eros, or an era stallion. He can call it whatever it is. At the end of the day, he's exactly like everyone else. He's not special, but he uses again language to make it sound more special and refined and evolved than it really is.
Every time I'm in a plant medicine journey, Mother Ayahuasca sits me down and lets me know every place that I've been out of integrity. So it was not a possibility.
Maybe Mother Ayahuasca needs to tell you that you're out of integrity now.
So then I sat down with Whitney and I said, hey, Whitney, like, I love you, but I don't think I can do this monogamy thing. Like, I want to try polyamory. And she was like, fuck off. Like, I have no interest. And I was like, damn. All right, well, this path is true to me. And I want you to know it's totally fair. As no special rights or privileges for me that are not granted to you. Like, this is what I'm proposing. She's like, still, fuck off.
Respect for that, Elise. I mean, when he proposed polyamory, it's not like I can go out and have multiple relationships and experiences. You can't, because some guys are like that. They're like, I want to have multiple women, but you need to be loyal to me only. So at least, he deserves props for that.
And we separated for a few months, and I found a lover, and then we eventually got back together, and then we tried to make it work. And this journey was very public during those times, and I learned a lot. About.
And I remember also that he made a video where he seemed very distraught about it, because I think Whitney was all in on it when she finally got into it, and it was actually him struggling with it, because I remember a video he would look very, very distraught about it.
It's also way easier for a girl to get laid.
Yeah, way easier. I mean, this is actually what usually happens. And I have an example, one of my friends. This is something that happens where a man is like, you know what, I would like to try out different things and explore. And then it's like the girl's like, really doesn't want it, but then they're okay if you want to. And then it's the girl who goes out and just have all these experiences, right? So one example, one of my friends, he was exactly like that, right? He had a girlfriend and they've been together for a long time. They knew each other, like high school sweethearts, basically. Well, they weren't together in high school, but they met later. So they've been together for a long time. And then he was actually talking with me about it, that he would like to try some things out, to also have sexual experiences with other girls. And he really sort of looked at her as like, I guess like the girlfriend, the wife arts type, He was like, I think I know she'll be a great mother and all that, right? And so a bit of restrictive categorization there, not really seeing her as the lover or the seductress as well, but just as the girlfriend, the potential mother, right? So he wanted to have other experiences with other girls. She just wanted him. Only him, right? But she was actually a wild girl. And one of my friends, that was also friends with this guy, he told me that. So she was actually a wild girl. And we both knew, me and the other friend, we both knew that if they were going to do it, she was the one who would go out there and slay, And that's exactly what happened. So they broke up, and he didn't have any sexual experiences for like a year or more. And she just went out there, and I was actually talking with him and like how it was going, and he was like, yeah, and how's it going with the girlfriend? Well, she's traveling the world, and last I talked with her, she had been lying on the beach smoking weed with this surfer instructor, and she just went out there and lived her life and doing her thing. So
I also saw a video of a girl who had a boyfriend in every country, so
there you go.
Yeah, so she just travels and then she lives for free with the boyfriend for like a week or two, and they have a nice relationship, and then she moves on to the next one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, she got a big of backlash on that on the internet,
but hey, if she wants to do that, do that. Again, no shaming on people wanting to be polyamorous. Go for it. The thing here, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, is the fact of bringing someone into it that doesn't really want it. But we'll get into that.
During that period that I met Vylana, and Vylana, I'm with Whitney and I'm starting to dance with Vylana, and she's like, what the hell are you doing, bro? That's your girlfriend over there. We were at Burning Man. She didn't get it. And then we sat down in the RV and I explained, like, no, this is a different construct. It's called polyamory. Everything we're doing is blessed in the arrangement that we have. And, I kind of let her know without being too overt at that moment that I was quite interested. And she was also like, hey, fuck off. I'm not interested in being one of your girlfriends. Like I got main character energy. I got main chick energy here. So like, I was like, damn, the possibility of being with Vylana, because I felt this really strong
stallion energy.
Mystical signs that came in.
Mystical signs.
An intimate encounter, and a white star of light came in my third eye. And it was open-eyed, closed-eyed vision. I wasn't on any medicine. And it was like God put an asterisk in this moment. And I was like, fuck. And then she coupled with somebody else. And I just remained friends with her and carried on with my polyamory journey. And eventually she uncoupled. And at the point that she uncoupled, then this was this huge kind of unkinking of a hose. And I was like, I'm all in. All in. You know, it took me like a couple weeks to propose after we gave some time and space for the uncoupling.
A couple of weeks, huh? That's fast.
We moved really.
Why am I not surprised that their sacred union, their monogamous union, that he couldn't keep that up 2 weeks before he proposed? Well, obviously that was too fast, given that the fact that he cannot upkeep his marriage vows.
Really, really fast. And, part of that covenant was, hey, I'm still going to be interested in some sexual experiences. We'll do them together. But it was largely under the auspices of monogamy with some exceptions. And Vi was
Okay, fair enough. So he wasn't like, it's you and only you, but he was like, it's monogamy, but with some exceptions. Again, not monogamy, polyamory, but okay, so at least he was upfront about that. I thought he would be like, oh, it's you and only you, okay.
It was an idea of pretty much classical monogamy with a little bit of play.
So, polyamory.
We start the process of exploring, and that exploring, certainly brought up a lot of different things for you.
It was, I guess, monogamish, you could call it. We didn't have, Marc here to kind of help walk us through and help us to see alternate, possibilities, and also just create the structure that creates, a lot of the safety. And so our whole relationship has felt like me just pressing edge, like pressing, okay, here's my edge. All right. Okay. Then I'm good here. And then like, okay, here's my next fucking edge. And it's just like a constant.
So basically she's kind of giving after. She has a boundary, and that boundary is being kind of impinged upon, transgressed upon, and then she moves it. And then some more, and then she moves it, and then she moves it, until she doesn't have any boundaries left, So that's what that sounds like to me. Is a woman who is with a man who doesn't respect her boundaries, really. And it sounds like she doesn't respect them herself.
That choice has meant a lot of shedding and dying for me, of like my stories of comparison or competition, or now if you look at them that way, am I not as important? Like that, it's just like all of those things that can arise, and just feeling the thing that the person that you love the most placing their attention on something else, like it brings up a lot of stuff. So it's, even our journey in the exploration, like there's.
So basically she feels unsafe in her relationship. She wants monogamy, is what I understand so far. Let me know in the comment section if you know otherwise, but it sounds like she wants monogamy, but that she's obviously with a man who doesn't want that, and that who has the wandering eye, and who has that horny sort energy that is looking elsewhere. So she doesn't feel safe in her relationship. And that's basically what that is. And then she can say, yeah, all this insecurity comes up. Yeah, but again, she doesn't feel safe. She feels anxious.
It's like a diamond that's been constantly forged over and over and over and over through the fire, but the fire is the truth. The fire is this paradox that I'm actually the most safe because there is nothing hiding in the shadows that's left to bite me. Sometimes it's so hard. And sometimes it's
some impressive biceps right there.
And that's the life that, I want to live. So that was my experience leading up to Alana making her way into.
I mean, it's basically like, so it's like an upgrade from the former sort of like relationships that she's had, where she was in a monogamy, but then it turns out that her man was cheating or doing something that came out of left field. And she felt blindsided, she felt betrayed and deceived. Now she is, I still think she's being deceived, but in a different way. Now she's in a relationship with a man who is exactly like the other men, in that he has the wandering eye. He does lust after other women. He has the Eros stallion energy, right? Of wanting to be with other women. Only now he's being honest about it, right? So there's an upgrade from that, but still, is that what she wants? Does she want to be with a man who wants other women, who lusts after other women, but is just honest about it? Because that's really the only difference here. Instead of not saying it and hiding it from her, he's being very open about, oh, I want to be with this girl, I want to be with that girl. How about, this one? But she doesn't strike me as a woman who really likes that. I'm sure she appreciates the honesty, but she doesn't seem very relaxed and at ease in that space. And isn't that what all women want? Aren't women like a flower that want to be able to just let go and just receive the beams from the sun of the masculine energy? To really relax, to just not have this tension there, right? She doesn't feel safe. And that is what the feminine wants. It wants to feel safe and appreciated and loved and adored. And yeah, I'm sure she does feel adored, and but she doesn't feel safe. So she's not in her element, despite the honesty.
Our life, it's been a wild journey, and I've died so many times I can't even count. It's just hundreds and hundreds, but ultimately,
if you need to undergo hundreds of ego deaths to live a lifestyle, then probably that lifestyle is not for you. Because what it strikes me as is that she's the one who has to do all the ego death and all the change and the evolution, right? She has to do all the work. She has to undergo all these trials and all this pain. And, I don't even want to call it growth, because I don't really know if it's growth evolution or if it's devolution, or, I just feel like it's a woman stepping outside of her element and outside her queen throne energy of wanting to be the one. But now she has to be one amongst many. Meanwhile, Marcus is in his element, right? He's just, he can do what he wants. He can look at who he wants. He can have sex with who he wants. He's in his element. He doesn't have to do anything. It's her that has to do all the changing. To me, it doesn't sound healthy.
To kind of like bring us to that point. That's what I'd say.
Even before we get to Alana, which is entering stage left in a second, you said one sentence, which I just want to reflect back. It was a passing sentence, but it was so important. You said to Ab, you said, I wanted to meet your desire and to love you the way you deserve to be loved. And then you added a really critical sentence, which was, because you've loved me.
So what is this again?
Said one sentence, which I just want to reflect back. It was a passing sentence, but it was so important. You said to Ab, you said, I wanted to meet your desire and to love you the way you deserve to be loved.
So I'm great that he actually mentioned that again. Exactly, why she wants to love Aubrey in a way that he deserves to be loved. But apparently that doesn't go the other way, It's a one-way street.
And then you added a really critical sentence, which was, because you've loved me in that way.
But does he, though? Does he love her in the way that she deserves to be loved? She wants to be loved. She wants to be the one. She wants to be his woman, not one amongst many. So is that really true?
I haven't had a natural inclination towards desiring other men. That's not really been true for me. There's a reciprocity of energy, in the ways that he loves me is different. And I also just want to give the context that, we started working with Marc as our teacher to learn Dharma, and then, found ourselves with you being the main person that we come to whenever we have struggles in our relationship. When Alana came into the picture, like, you have been such a necessary anchor to us being able to sit here right now.
Once again, so the main guy they go to with this is a guy who had to close down his spiritual center in Israel, because the women there were saying that he was great.
So in the same way, just really wanting to like honor and recognize, like, there's no, I cannot see a way that we could be sitting here right now without you.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, we've all been together. Yeah, just so beautiful. There's a deep equality. There's
fundamental,
a deep
structural
and
equality.
respect.
Yeah.
Deep respect of full possibility and love.
I'm getting really tired of listening to this guy kind of trying to arrange things and
radical monogamy in the field of erotic. We've given this a name. We're calling it radical monogamy.
Okay, now we get into it. Let's hear here.
So paradoxically, this is not about polyamory. That's the paradox. It's actually about radical monogamy, meaning deep, exclusive, lifelong, committed relationship, right? But not in the classical monogamous sense. It's an expanded monogamy.
So it's not monogamy.
But there's a radical monogamy, but it's just not a...
So it's not monogamy. It either is monogamy, two people, or it's not. It's not expanded how? You expand it so there are other people in there, but now it's broken. Then it's not monogamy. Dr. Marc Gafni.
It's a slightly bigger monogamy, but it's not, okay, we're not like moving in and out of partners. No, it's not the polyamory road. It's not the classical monogamy mode. It's a radical monogamy.
So not monogamy.
Of deep exclusivity between Aubrey and Vi. And then there's going to be a new...
So it's not exclusive.
Goddess who will step into the field, who will also step into this field of radical monogamy in the field of erotic mystics. So it's a very deep structure. I'm just remembering a person right now, and if you all remember, Aubrey, this is dating ourselves.
Okay, let's look up the definition here of monogamy. The state or practice of having one sexual partner at a time. So the moment you have two sexual partners at a time, it's no longer monogamy. So he can call all he wants, radical monogamy, expanded monogamy. It's not monogamy.
Polyamory is the practice of the desire for a romantic relationship with more than one partner at the same time, with the informed consent of all partners involved.
So like the definition is the state of practice of having... Yeah, so what he said.
I would love to, sorry to interrupt. I would love to be able to...
What Ob says and what you're stepping into is so crazy beautiful. Right? The relationship structure that you were in particularly might be over.
This is like kind of like the most low-level manipulation is kind of like being like, yeah, it's great, you're doing so well, yeah, I mean, this is like such an obvious manipulation tactic when you really know what you're looking at. The fact that he's encouraging them instead of just letting the conversation flow and then them find out themselves, he's like, trying to get them to take along with this radical monogamy, which is polyamory, and he's of course using positive feedback, right? Positive feedback to make them feel good about it, to make them feel that they're on the right path.
Both of us were like, we're here in Miami for a month. We're going to look around. We're going to see if we can find anybody here in Miami. And it was coming towards the end of the trip. So both of us were on Raya, and we were not actively pursuing, but we were just kind of leaving.
I was checking all the time.
Yeah.
I was looking all the time.
Yeah. I'm in the weight room, and again, the mystical plays it's a theme, it's a motif in this. I'm in the middle of a set, and we just worked out today. You saw me, my phone was there. So I'm in the middle of my workout, and I just get this message. And the message is, go on Raya right now, and you're going to find somebody there that's important. And I go, huh. Okay. And I've had enough messages from Spirit that I tend to listen, especially if it's low cost. It's interrupting my workout, but that's a low cost. To ignore God at that point to finish your workout would be absurd. So I open it up. First picture pops up. I'm like, nope, that's not it. Click one time, and there's Alana. And I'm like, and I just get this kind of like chills. And I'm like, fuck.
You showed me immediately too.
I was like, fuck. Like, I think this is it. I think this is what Spirit was telling me about. So I sent her this message on the app, and the message is something like,
so he's like doing this, and he's like, and then God is like, Aubrey, my hero stallion, I got something for you. And then he hops into his dating app. This sounds very much like a monogamous relationship, right, Anas? Like they're working out, checking out dating app. It's a real like expanded monogamy. You have to understand.
Yeah.
hey, like, this is gonna sound super woo-woo. And then she hits me back real fast and says, woo-woo, that's the place that I live and love. And I was like, so I'd love for you, Alana, to take us, people don't know you here yet on the podcast, and they don't know your story. So just moving through some of the kind of key points that brought you to that moment, finding yourself in Miami.
Yeah, that was really interesting, because I think one of the most interesting pieces of that was that I had been on Raya for a day. I had downloaded
Oh, wow.
before. I had never really
Do you know Raya?
like the dating app
Do you?
scenario, but prior to that,
What do you know about it?
It's an exclusive dating app for the rich and beautiful.
So I'm kind of in Miami in this limbo place, just kind of not really knowing what I'm going to do or what's next, and feeling anxious, and leaving what I had done for most of my life as a career, and feeling that there was something more, but not knowing how that was going to unfold.
Largely a model.
Yeah, modeling mostly, and just feeling like that was completed. I wanted to do not really.
He so wanted that to be in there, Could you like clarify to us what you did? Modeling, right?
I had a friend who was like, just download Raya and just talk to people, because it's so not my pace to online date and just be in that exploration.
Do you remember back when online dating, that was like what old people did? Where young people were like, online dating apps, like that's for old people. But then like Tinder came, and then it was the kind of like a thing,
Let's see what's here, and like have a fun whatever lunch or whatever it will be, It was exciting.
Yeah, beautiful. So
totally.
Part of me, and we
totally.
just like.
What do you feel is the vibe between those two, the two girls? Do you think they like each other?
Not necessarily, no.
No.
They definitely not BFFs.
No.
It's not sister wives.
No.
It's like when a guy has multiple wives and all the wives are like sisters because they're so good friends. Which is not the case of these two.
So what do you see?
Two women fighting for one man. I don't know.
Two things to pick up here that are so beautiful. I'm thinking about Neo and Trinity. We always have to go back to.
I'm just gonna skip this guy. I literally cannot handle his nasal speaking. He says nothing profound.
So Alana starts journeying along with us where we go. And anytime Vi has a performance or something like that, Alana's there, like helping with the bowls and offering her presence, and Vi's stepping into new octaves and levels of your own capacity, partly because of this.
Do you also feel like this a little bit like of a desperation to like really make it work? Kind of like, oh, it's so great, and you like each other so much, and it's so amazing. It's like high five, I feel like almost like a desperation there to like really just infuse it with so much positive reinforcement as possible, instead of just letting it arise organically, just letting it arise and flow. I'm just sensing some desperation. What about you guys? Do you sense anything there? Let us know down below.
Was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then we started tiptoeing into the erotic intimacy. We had, I think, so much just respect for your purity, in that way that we couldn't quite see yet the primal aspect that you had, where your roots and your leaves both stretch down.
At some point, we always hit the tragic. So in the realm of love, we're like, we fall out of love, or it's complicated, or it's painful, or it's not the way I thought it would be, or it's not clear, or I'm confused.
Once again, this guy's just talking based on his own experiences. There's no one saying that you need to have tragedy happen in your relationship. If it's the right thing, if it's true, there's no reason why the honeymoon phase shouldn't be able to last forever. So he's talking about this stuff from his own experiences of his failed marriages. And that's the guy that they take advice from, a man who has a string of failed marriages and who is allegedly great.
This is powerful. This is beautiful. And then we enter this one dark chamber.
Okay, here it comes.
Dark chamber.
This is the Holy Polies.
The Holy of Holies, like the sanctum sanctorum of this temple. And Matthias is there, and he's doing an activation in there, and we're in the dark, and Alana and Vi are in there. And I receive a message as clear as any message I've ever received, and it felt to me coming through the voice of Isis. She didn't announce herself, but that was implicit in my understanding, in this almost telekinetic understanding. And it says, you need to have children with both of them. And I go, excuse me? Like, what? And then the voice repeated itself. And I go,
how convenient.
I was just like, my heart sank into my belly, and I was like, fuck.
Fucking schizo.
So I quietly exit the Holy of Holies and find some place where I could look out at the water and just go like, what the fuck was that? Because I knew that was not the covenant that I had made with Vi that brought her in. That was not, when I got down on my knee and proposed, that was not part of the plan.
So that is the situation. Aubrey went into the Temple of Isis. I wonder if it was actually the Temple of Hathor, because I know he was there as well. I've actually been to the Temple of Hathor in Egypt, and it's majestic. It's the most beautiful, awe-inspiring place I've ever been. So I have no doubt that that can be a place, a facilitator of an interesting experience. So I don't have any doubt that he did hear that voice. The question is, what was the voice? Where did it come from? Was it truly the voice of Isis coming through? Or was it a demon? Or was it his own unconscious desires manifesting in this experience? Was it the plant medicine itself that I assumed that he was on? We don't know, but let us know down below what you guys think. What I see is a man who wants one thing and a woman who wants quite another. And then I see this other guy really trying to enmesh them in this, right? He's kind of like the mastermind behind it. And it's not a good situation. Only time will tell whether or not this constellation that they call radical monogamy, but which is really just polyamory, will pan out. I think many of us feel like we're watching a train wreck about to happen, already happening. And I can't really see how this is going to land very well, especially not for Vylana. I think that this is a queen who has left her throne to be with a knight. She has not found her king. And the small king energy that Aubrey gives her, that's not enough for her. But she still is hoping for the kingdom. You know, she's praying for the kingdom. And I don't think that she will get that with him. So I do wish all of them the best. Whatever quest that Aubrey is on, whatever he's searching for in polyamory, I hope he grows from the experience, it becomes all the wiser for it, even if he does pursue a path of blindness for a while. I hope Alana gets what she wants, because she felt lost before she found, or before they found her, or they found each other, I guess, on the dating app. But I mean, nobody else can find you for you. You have to find yourself. And her getting all this sort of like encouragement from them, and all this self-esteem boost from them, and all this attention and adoration certainly is something that sort of builds her up in a way. And you know, she doesn't want to let go of that. But I hope that she finds herself, and I hope that Vylana finds her king. So with that, I want to end this reaction video. Thank you for watching, and let us know your thoughts below about this interesting situation. Thank you so much, and until next time.